Hello, this is Jim Craddock with Redacted Science, and today is Monday, February 23rd, 2026. And today I had a couple things in mind. I've been thinking about kind of things that I wanted to cover. Uh, so one, I'm going to deal with current symptoms. I think this is should be part of everything that I do. I log this to Nostr via my discussions with AI, and that way you get a little bit of kind of like continuity from, okay, so I give you an individual report, but the AI kind of ties it to recent reports and notices trends, things like that. Uh, but over the last week, I've had over the last couple weeks, I would say I've had the same types of things going on. However, this last week it has changed. So I started having cold hands and feet, and usually it's not at the same time, which is kind of strange. It'll be like one or the other, but they get really cold and like. Sometimes it's worse than other times. Sometimes it's not at all, but it is definitely new and quite noticeable from my perspective to feel it. And I'm sure this has to do with the reduced volume, as well as the reduced circulation from the filling up of the interstitial areas with, basically nothing, salts, so it can't do anything there. Uh, uh, Two other things, I've talked about my fingernails and toenails, so I'm not going to go into too much of that, but let's just say that that's, even more noticeable. It's You've got the sharp, very strong fingernails, and then the very thin toenails with no real, you know, connection to the nail bed themselves. I mean, they're connected, but they're like they can come right off if you want. So anyway, but the new another new thing is let's see, Saturday evening. So this is a Saturday evening? Yeah. So Saturday evening, I was just adjusting in bed and I tore something in my elbow. I'm pretty sure. And so, we'll monitor this, but so what we're talking about here is something that was directly referenced in the book about how, due to both the changes in pH and then eventually the attack of the candida itself, you basically compromise the integrity of tendons to where they're no longer. At some points during this condition, they're very strong because they get just tightened apoptically and everything. But then after the pH changes and things, and then uh, some other things that occur, those kind of reinforcements go away. I mean, it's kind of strange because you have periods where everything is very loose and everything kind of pops out and things like that, and then you have these other times where things tighten. And so basically you re-strengthen those connections of your tendons and stuff. And so this would be like my shoulders would pop kind of out. My hips would feel loose, and my elbows would feel loose, and my knees felt loose at times. But now what I've got in my left elbow is I've torn something, and so if I try to do anything weight bearing, I definitely feel pain there. So yeah, the elbow is concerning. It's not very limiting at the moment. However, it might be kind of the first sign of this next phase. I will say also I had several days, and it's weird. And if you go look at my Nostr post, you can kind of see how it changes. But I had, for example, a day of a lot of pain, abdominal pain. And then Thursday, so that was Wednesday, I think. Thursday, I drove to Norman to see my son, and sitting often makes the pain worse, and eating can make it worse. But on that day, pain wasn't bad. It was still there, but it wasn't bad. And then I had another day of bad pain, and then a day of no pain. Like Saturday, virtually no pain, abdominal pain. Still all the other general weakness of my legs, the aching of my legs, had a couple of headaches, which I usually do not have headaches. What else? I mean, that's pretty much most of it that I've experienced lately. Obviously, there's been fluctuations in the bowels as has been very consistent for this last 4 years. Sometimes those are long periods of kind of relative stability in how things operate, and then often, as now, things change daily. And there's a lot of different areas there, slopes, as I call them, uh, to vary. So I don't go into those really, but just know that that is probably one of the things that changes the most in this condition. Probably would be the best indicator of really what's going on in your system would be a great analysis there. Early on in this condition, you can everything's extremely firm. You'd stop up. So this is like, the early 2000s for me, or before that, between 95 and early 2000s. You could stop up pipes, no problem. And then later things change, and I'm just not going to go into all those things. So anyway, so that's the pain. So I'm going to read a little bit from a book because I'm going to introduce a couple things that I actually don't talk about in my book. So I wanted to read part of my book, and I'm also recording an audiobook of my book in my voice. I have no idea if I'll finish it. My world is existential, but at least you'll get some of my asides in there. There is a section in my book. Let's see, it's here, page 53. And I say, I'm just going to start reading it. The second thing was I noticed that in the shower, my feet would swell. And this wasn't a lot of swelling, but they would noticeably puff up. Okay. And especially when I was as thin as I was at the time, you would notice that. And then I would have a mini attack of immediate polyuria when I got out of the shower. Like my body was trying to purge the water it had somehow absorbed through the skin. So I decided to fight back on my terms. I did what I always do. I pushed back. I joined a gym with a pool. I wasn't there to bulk up or do cardio, although that's what I told my wife. Yeah, we got married in the middle of that first year. You should see how skinny I am in our wedding photos. I had one mission: get into that water and beat it. See, the thinking is, okay, I'm absorbing water, so let's find out what's the limit? How much water can I absorb, right? So I jumped in, planning to swim a few laps. But the moment my body hit the water, it went into shock. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning from the inside out. My system locked up. It was yet another existential moment. Somehow, I dragged myself out, and I was literally just halfway out of the pool, like leaning, like with just my chest over the wall of the pool, like just heaving, breathing. And I lay on the slick cement, heaving. There we go. Other people were there. I have no idea what they thought. I couldn't even focus on anything except breathe in and breathe out. Eventually, I made it to the locker room where, true to form, I stood at the urinal for what felt like forever. But that wasn't the end. I came back the next day and the one after. Eventually, I could swim 40 laps at a time because that's who I am. I fight. I wouldn't still be here if I hadn't. I'll say this certainly felt like progress. I was exercising, which I continued religiously until much later, and the whole water situation seemed to be stabilized. Admittedly, my feet were now half a size larger, and I did find that a bit odd, but my feet had always been skinny. At first, I just tied my shoes more loosely, but eventually I went from an 8.5 to a 9. No biggie, right? So the reason I go into that is because that was the beginning of me getting into shape. And there's something that isn't mentioned in the book that I wanted to cover. So that next year, late spring, I think. So this would be 1996. We had used to have what was called the corporate challenge here in my area. And so companies of all different sizes would compete in all these different types of athletic events, from swimming, relays, running, different things like that. And so because I had been getting in shape and I always want to challenge myself. I said, and I have never swum competitively or run competitively. I said, yeah, I'll do the mile and I'll take one of the places in the relay and the swimming relay. Well, I will say the swimming relay went great from my perspective. Like it wasn't overly stressful. I swam fine. We did well. I don't remember what our place was, but the running, I actually ran my fastest mile ever that I've timed. But interestingly, afterwards, I had an altered mental state, and I thought everybody would notice. I was I had run a little bit, okay, before that, but not very much. I had mostly been swimming, and so I got out there and I ran hard, and I ran about a 7 minute mile, which I mean is you have to remember I'm a short guy, not a runner, so that was pretty good for. But for about the next 2 hours, I it felt like I didn't know where I was, almost. I mean, I just felt confused and everything. And I just stayed really mellow, didn't say anything, didn't want anybody to notice because I knew it was something going on weird about my system. And there wasn't anything I could do. But I don't know, what was going on there. It definitely wasn't heat stroke because it was cool that morning. I only ran for 7 minutes. It was something else. And anyway, it was odd. So the other story I'm going to share is later, and I don't know what year this was. I can kind of remember which office I was in at work, which I moved a lot of into different offices at work. So that kind of tells me it was probably in the early 2000s. Uh, but I got a flu shot, and uh, I was hesitant to get a flu shot in the first place a little bit, just because my system is not the normal system, and who knows what's going to happen, right? So I get a flu shot, and it was like on a Thursday or a Friday, I don't remember. And within 24 hours, the pads of my hands and my feet were red. They felt painful and inflamed, and especially my big toes. I remember both my big toes, and so this is like the fatty area of the. And so I don't know if you realize this, but your fingers and your toes, they have this kind of fat pad on the bottom. All right, and basically. At this point, what I'm relatively sure is so you basically ramp up the immune system with this vaccination, right? And somehow something that has been negotiated between the candida and my body decides that it's no longer on a peaceful setting, and the candida attacked, or the white blood cells attacked or something. But I can tell you the fat pads on my fingers and my toes were gone within a few days, and the only way, well, the way I got it to stop, and I don't know if it would have stopped of its own accord or what, was after about 48 hours, I decided I had some of my fluconazole left. I took some fluconazole, and within 24 hours, the redness and the pain was gone. But to me, that was like some type of a modulation of the immune system that basically overrode whatever kind of peaceful accord my body had made with the candida, and showed up in the fat pads of my fingers and my toes and my feet, really. Uh, and I mean, when I took my shoes off, and you could look and just see that my toes were bright red, especially my big toe. And the same thing with my fingertips; they were just bright red, and it was painful. Anyway, so I wanted to share that. And I'm enjoying yeah, reading my book. I hope that somebody finds it useful. I feel really kind of validated lately, knowing that when you go search either Jim Craddock or Redacted Science, you find all my stuff. You find links to everything. Uh, And if you ask ChatGPT or Gemini or Google, who's an expert in redacted science, they cite my case study. Uh, and to me, that makes it more likely that in the future researchers will be looking, somebody out there studies Candida and they Google and they're going to find me and they're going to say, huh, and their biochemical computer. And because when you ask like Grok about uh, uh, redacted science or even how Candida can make decisions. It literally links, it brings up jimcraddock.com, and when I click on it, it literally takes you to the Candida as a biochemical computer page of my book in the PDF. It's so awesome. I feel very validated by that. Uh, so back on the topic of just general health and things, you know, it's it's when everything is changing all the time, or when new things are occurring, it's difficult to deal with. I think that the more difficult thing is to the pain is hard to deal with, okay? But when you have a day like Saturday when nothing hurts, you just sit there and wonder what's next. Like, what is going to happen next? And that's something I've had to deal with many times where you realize that, okay, I've gotten some kind of reprieve, but what does that mean is really going on physically inside me? And you can't really know. I feel very blessed to get to where I am right now. I watched uh, Famous Last Words or something like that with Eric Dane, and it was crazy to me because he was diagnosed with ALS in 2024, which is two over 2 years after I went through the transition, the beginning of the transition into this phase when the inferior vena cava back pressure collapses. And here he is, he's gone, he's been through, this complete degradation of how his body transmitted nerve signals. And yet here's my body, you know, still going. I'm still working. Everything, looks normal, but we know it's not. And I don't know. It to me, it was kind of sobering, and at the same time, made me realize that uh, I'm lucky, and the things that I did, over 30 years ago now, from inside a mental facility where I replicated an experiment from a now redacted research article, makes me realize that I'm really lucky and I did the right thing, and that this science is important, and that it might have a lot more implications than we're thinking about. Uh, what else? The world is messed up, and I continue to point that out. I was listening to an X Spaces this morning for just a little bit, and they always have this kind of financial discussion, X Spaces, and here they are. These people are talking about how, oh, the Supreme Court, ruled that the tariffs aren't legal, and talking about how some people will probably be seeking refunds, but that they're just going to apply them a different way because Kavanaugh said that, oh yeah, if you just do them this other way, then that would have been cool. And there's this state of normalcy bias when it has now become obvious that the entire world is a theater for these dark groups who are the financial elite and are manipulating everything and enjoying complete freedom from persecution. Uh, I, I just don't know how people kind of you know, keep those two thoughts in their head at the same time of, oh, let's talk about everyday government running, and then realize that the whole system is run by corrupt individuals who have absolutely no real interest in what they say they're doing, that they all have some second order interest that is really uh, the reason that they're doing the things that they're doing. So I the fourth turning is going to be quite severe, folks. I don't know when you'll come to grasp that, but at some point we're going to have to, pay the piper for these sins that we've committed. And yeah, I don't know. AI's closing in fast too, so you're going to have a lot to deal with. I'm enjoying it though. Every day is fascinating. You get to watch the world fall apart in slow motion, knowing that I won't have to deal with the ramifications of all of that. And, just surviving. They finished the pool this week. I'd show you a picture, but it's basically a pool with, a nice tanning ledge and water features and everything. And literally that doorbell, I don't know if you heard it earlier, was the pool inspectors coming to finish the pool inspection. So yeah, life goes on. And Bitcoin's down, hit 64 last night. I added a little. And it'll probably go down some more. I mean, if you're in there for less than the next 2 years, 3 years, you're thinking too short term, and it could fail, folks. But if it fails, that pretty much means gold goes to the moon. So, if you're in both, I think you're good. I guess that's about it, folks. This is Jim Craddock. I've got terminal onset diabetes insipidus with candidiasis major. Somebody decided to redact that from the medical system and science. It has a whole lot of important scientific implications. First among those being that it proves that we co-evolved with a fungus, which has great implications for medical research. We should be doing more research in the fungal area, in the communication area. How would a fungus be communicating with our body, and figuring those things out, because there's a lot of ground to cover there, and it's definitely embedded in our physiology, which my condition proves. So anyway, that's it for now. I will let you go. And, hey, I never say this, but, like, subscribe, whatever you want. I don't know where this video will be posted, but, share my story. It's real. If you know an evolutionary biologist, or, somebody who studies fungus or the immune system, they should read my book. And for everyone else, you should read my book too for other reasons. Thanks.